Jim, you and Fred, the three of you and Fred and Jack, worked really close and a long time with Mission Control to arrive at the solutions that got you back home. There had to be a point along in there somewhere where you finally said to yourself, gee, I think we're going to make it. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think our odds kept getting better and better as we came along. And of course, there's all sorts of little crises we had to get back on. First of all, as Charlie mentioned, we had to get back on the free return course again. Otherwise, we would have missed the Earth completely and probably still be in orbit. And we didn't want to do that. And then we had to speed up to get back home because we had limited electrical supplies and the batteries that the lunar module had, and that was the criteria right there, along with the water that we were short of. And so we had to figure that out, and that's where Charlie and the backup crews went down the simulators and figured out how we could burn the lunar module engine for a second time. And then we had, of course, that famous problem of being poisoned by our own exhalation, where our own exhalation was producing carbon dioxide, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide was building up in the lunar module. And if it gets up to be too high of a percentage, it starts to affect us, and actually will start to poison the crew. So there's where crew systems down at Mission Control, or at NASA, I should say, realized the same problem about the same time and came up with the famous jury rig thing of taking a square canister in the dead command module, which we had plenty of, to fit into the lunar module system to remove the round canisters, which were becoming saturated, using duct tape and plastic and a piece of cardboard and an old sock. And that worked very fine too, which told us that any kind of a $20 billion program, you better have a duct tape
And clean socks.
And so these are the crises that we're doing. But every time we hit a little high bump, we got a little bit more confidence in the fact that, hey, this thing might just work out. Of course, all the consumables were slowly going down. And then the final thing, of course, when we were coming back home again, the ground was tracking us. And we thought we got on the free return course. This is a course that would take us into a small 2-degree pie-shaped wedge that would get us safely into the atmosphere and a safe landing. But, and we had turned off all of our nav aids. We couldn't afford the electrical power to keep them going. The computer was out at that time, and the guidance system was gone. And they finally called up and said, "You're no longer on the free return course. You know, what are you doing up there?" We were holding our fingers crossed and everything like that. And they said to me, they said, do you recall those procedures we had in Apollo 8? Those procedures that were in the back of the flight manual, that in case all the other normal emergency procedures failed, you turn to the last page and you use that. And I said, I do recall those procedures. I helped develop them on Apollo 8, but after 8 we thought they were way out, they were really useless, and we just tore them out of the flight manuals, probably to save weight. And of course they said, you're going to have to use them now. And that's when Fred and I got together to try to figure out what to do, and that was to manually burn the lunar module engine one more time without the benefit of an autopilot to help stabilize these two vehicles, and using the Earth's terminator as a guidepost and a gun sight or a crosshair that we had in the lunar module window as a reference to make the final maneuver. And that worked. Got us back up into the corridor to come back in to make a safe landing. And so we were very happy that what we had done on Apollo 8, we never thought we'd ever going to have to use. We came up and used it.
Gene, your name is synonymous with the statement, failure is not an option. Did you really say that?
No.
Oh.
No, actually, the talk in the data room
where the team was assembling was, the first part's right, never lost American in space. The second part was, this crew's coming home. You gotta believe it, your team must believe it, and we must make it happen. And this apparently was too long a statement, and Jerry Bostic, one of my trajectory controllers, Ed Harris, had asked him to, he and Jerry Griffin, one of the flight directors, to go out and coach him when he was doing the filming. And Bostic apparently suggested, this is what's rumored, apparently suggested that says what Kranz really meant was failure is not an option.
Good title for a book. You always think you're going to get them home too.
Yeah, I never doubted it. This is one thing that we were hassled several times during the course of the mission. The White House always wanted to have some kind of a press statement available. So they kept coming down and banging away at this, and I think finally Deke or somebody over in the crew side, one of the Capcoms, they said, quit bothering the flight director. And they said, well, what do you give as the odds? And I think Deke was the one who said, well, 50-50 or something like that. But at no time did I ever doubt we were going to bring the crew home. I had confidence in the lunar module spacecraft. We had worked with it, and I had confidence in the team.
I have to tell you, in my opinion, Apollo 13 is probably the most successful flight in the Apollo program. And the success of Apollo 13 is really due to you guys up here tonight. And I think we ought to give them a great big We had an absolute life-threatening disaster in our hands, and these guys were able to work effectively and get that spacecraft and a crew back home. Jim?
Al, can I make one last comment? Because when Bob Cabana came up here, we gave his little talk, and he was mentioning the fact that that he watched Apollo 13 from the TV and everything like that. Never thought for a fact that he was going to be in the program and all. This is one of the things that manned spaceflight does for the American people. Here's a fellow who is now the director of the Kennedy Space Center, who's made space flights. And at the time that he was watching Apollo 13, he had the incentive and the interest to continue on in a program of what he's doing now. And this is one of the little intangible benefits that manned spaceflight has to the people of the United States.
It's a proud moment for all of us in NASA and for the entire country. I can't remember being prouder than when Apollo 13 splashed down. This image is forever embedded in my mind, and I'm sure to most of you as well. We'd like to just show you the final seconds of Apollo 13.